Hey guys, Lunar here, aka Mossman. Today I'm here to talk to you about the new unit in Epic 7 called Aram. She has been a popular pick since she came out in Legend RTA matches, and I wanted to go over her skills and show you a bit of gameplay involving her today. So starting with her skills, I'm going to go ahead and start with her S2, which is kind of the main gimmick slash niche of her kit. So this skill, called Coastal Discipline, at the start of first battle, if an enemy takes the first turn, it grants immunity to all allies for 3 turns. So the significance for this skill is Aram is typically picked as a counter pick to Fire Litica, who has been a popular opener all season long, because she's able to push her team up and she is using a lot of aggro compositions. And so the way that Aram is kind of used to neutralize Litica is she gives immunity to all allies for 3 turns, assuming that Litica takes turn 1, which she generally does if you're fighting her because she's built with high speed. And so basically, she's not going to be able to reduce the duration of the immunity buff to 0 turns because it's a 3-turn long buff. And so Litica is typically paired with units like Celine because after she S2s, she can S3 a target and ignore ER defense break it if she landed a bind. But she basically will not be able to do that because this immunity buff will stick because of the turn duration. And so it's pretty useful in that regard because you don't have a unit die right away to something like an Celine that takes advantage of the debuffs that Litica can inflict. And so it's basically a good counter to the debuffs that Litica inflicts. However, you can actually use her yourself if you're playing a sort of aggressive composition, because she also has this included thing where if an ally takes the first turn, then she gives you effectiveness buff to all your allies for 3 turns. So if you're playing a comp like Litica with Aram, and then you pair it with something like an SBA, then the effectiveness buff will give her the effectiveness to land on high ER clarity targets like MLKDs or Decina or even something like a Sage Ball. And I want to point out that after she suffers an AoE attack that targets all allies, she will activate this warming up, which basically it gives you 10 free souls, and then it also gives your entire team vigor and speed buff for 2 turns. And so by giving your team vigor, it makes them do more damage, and more importantly, it makes them tankier against the aggro team that has used an AoE skill, whether it's Litica S2 in order to push themselves up, or some other AoE skill for them to set up their team. So this gives you increased bulkiness, and it also gives your team speed buff so that they can have a better chance of taking a turn in between your enemy's aggressive units. Now, the next skill I want to talk about is her S3. So when Aram is able to take a turn and then use this skill, because her S2 is a passive, so you only get the choice between S1 and S3. So she can use this. It is a non-attack skill, and basically you target one of your allies to give them a 100% CR push when this skill is maxed, and then actually resets their skill cooldowns as well. And I think a very nifty thing about this skill is it cannot be affected by CDR increase or decrease effects. So if you're fighting something like an MO Roana, or even like a Blue Lua, they cannot reset the cooldown of this skill. So you are guaranteed to get this skill off as long as you take a turn. So like this skill cannot be reset. It also can't be reset by Green Eye Syria, like for PvE content, because it cannot be effective in a positive way either. But typically in PvP context, the main important part is that it's unaffected by decreased effects. And when you're using this unit aggressively, it can be really useful to reset something like Blue Summer Huayang, because you actually get to S3 twice in a row, assuming that your DPS goes before Aram, which is kind of an important thing. Typically, in order to take maximum effect of this skill, you'll want your DPS or whichever unit you're pushing up to have already used their skills so that you can reset them and then use their skill again. So like a unique situation is if you pair Aram with ML Haste and one of your ally units dies, then ML Haste obviously gets the buff that makes his S3 do twice the amount of damage, and then he can S3, and then you can actually push him up and reset him, and he'll still have the increased damage amplification, but he can actually S3 again. It's a very unique skill, and it makes for a very fun kit. Because not only do you get Vigor and Immunity, which is protection against certain types of debuff and skills, but you can also push up one of the targets on your team, give them a 100% CR push, and even reset their skills in order to kind of change the shift of the battle. For her last skill, it is, I want to talk about her basic attack. Basically, it is a small AoE heal upon hit to your entire team. But more importantly, and this can be kind of annoying when you're fighting her, her soul burn, which is 10 souls, is basically a 100% chance to stun the target that she hits. This is a single target skill, and it is subject to 15%. And also, this hero does not typically build effect from this, so if you hit a target that has effect resistance, then it can get resisted. But typically, you use this comp and you use this unit against low ER units because you're fighting aggressive comps. So being able to stun something like a BBK or a Hua Young, if you're able to cut somehow, or if you go after them and you're trying to prevent them from taking another turn, then this can be a very useful soul burn as well. So I described her positive aspects and the ways in which she's used. She's most commonly used against Firelitica, but I want to say that this unit does have some weaknesses. First and foremost, while she does give the team vigor, one of the biggest ways that Firelitica is being used right now is to push their team up. And so she does not have any sort of innate CR manipulation against that. While she does give her team speed buff, typically if you're fighting against an aggressive team composition, you'll be playing slower heroes. And so if the player with the Firelitica is trying to push their team up to use units like Emerald Celine or Strays or whatnot, she does not really provide any, I guess, innate protection against them being able to push their team up, push their damage dealers up to try to kill your team. And also, another unit that has been starting to be commonly paired with Firelitica is the new Light Tenebria unit. And while Aram does provide 3-turn immunity buff to her teammates, she does not protect against debuffers that actually strip the buffs. And so, because buff stacking is a popular way to counter debuffs, it actually does not apply in Aram's case, because the immunity buff is actually the first buff that shows when you are fighting her and her team, among the various buffs that she provides. And so when Light Tenebria goes and uses her S3, the immunity being the first buff that shows will actually be removed, it will be stripped, and then your entire team will be debuffed by Light Tenebria. So that's another weakness that she has, because she is not a cleanser, and while she does provide the immunity, this immunity can be stripped. So it is strong against turn reduction debuffs, but it is not strong against debuffs that have strips. And so I do want to give a note of caution for that, because units like Strays, while she does provide vigor, Strays does so much damage that it does not really care about the vigor that it gives the team. And then units like Light Tenebria can bypass the immunity protection that Aram provides her team. So I want to give you guys a note of caution when using her. But she is nonetheless a good unit. I've been seeing her a lot in my Legend matches, especially because I play Firelitica a lot. And I do think she is a unit that's definitely worth pulling for anyone that is interested in PvP content. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe and support Epic 7. Thank you.